All right, let's dive right in. Today, we're talking about something that's at the very heart of Indian democracy, your fundamental rights. Seriously, think of these as your own personal, constitutional shield, protecting your liberty and your dignity every single day.
Now, to really get a feel for just how important these rights are, let's start with a big question. You've probably heard of the Magna Carta, right? That legendary Charter of Rights from 13th century England. So what do you think is the Magna Carta of modern India?
That's right, it's part 3 of our Constitution. This whole section, which lays out our fundamental rights from Articles 12 to 35, is so crucial, so foundational to our freedom that it's earned that epic title. It's the absolute cornerstone of our democracy. So let's crack open this constitutional shield and see what's inside. The Constitution spells out 6 fundamental rights that are guaranteed to every single one of us as citizens.
Yep, just 6.
But listen, these aren't suggestions or some vague guidelines. We're talking about 6 essential, legally enforceable rights. And what that means is, if any of these are violated, you can go straight to the courts to get justice. That is a massive guarantee. And here's the lineup. You've got the right to equality, which is all about fairness. The right to freedom, which protects your basic liberties, like speech. The right against exploitation, which is a big no to things like forced labor. Then there's the right to freedom of religion, pretty self-explanatory. Cultural and educational rights, which protect minority communities. And finally, the big one, the right to constitutional remedies. This is like the master key. It's the right that lets you go to court to enforce all the others. For this explainer, we're really going to zero in on that first one, the right to equality. But you know, a list of rights is just a list. To get their real power, we have to ask why. Why are they so important? What was the fundamental problem the framers of our Constitution were trying to fix? This quote right here, it hits the nail on the head. The whole point wasn't just to hand out freedoms. It was to build a system based on the rule of law, not the rule of men. It means our country is governed by laws that apply to everyone, not just by the random whims of whoever is in power. And that leads to their most critical job,
Which is to act as a check on that power. They are your shield, protecting you from the government, from the state getting too powerful. Which of course brings up the next big question. What exactly is the state?
The Constitution is actually super helpful here. It doesn't leave us guessing. Article 12 gives a really broad, all-encompassing definition of the state, just to make sure your shield gives you the widest protection possible. And check this out. This shows you just how wide that protection is. The state isn't just the central government in Delhi. It's your state government. It's your local city council or village panchayat. And it even includes government-run corporations like LIC or ONG. All of these bodies, top to bottom, have to respect your fundamental rights. Okay, let's zoom in on that very first right, the right to equality, which you'll find in Article 14. Now, this sounds pretty straightforward, but it actually has 2 separate, really important parts. It's like 2 sides of the same coin, and both work together to guarantee fairness. So on one side, you have equality before the law. This idea comes from Britain. Think of it as a defensive move. It says, nope, no special privileges for anyone. Nobody is above the law. Then on the other side, you've got equal protection of the laws, which is an American concept. This one is more proactive. It demands that the state treats people in similar situations fairly. So one stops special treatment, and the other actively promotes fair treatment. You absolutely need both for real equality. But here's where it gets interesting. Like a lot of things in law, this idea of equality isn't totally absolute. The Constitution itself actually makes some very specific exceptions to the rule, mainly to make sure the government can function smoothly. So who gets this kind of immunity? Well, the president and state governors do for their official actions. Members of parliament and state legislatures can't be taken to court for what they say or how they vote during a session. This is to protect free debate. And then, following international law, you've got foreign leaders, diplomats, and the UN. These aren't random loopholes. They're the official rules of the game, laid out in the Constitution itself. And that brings us to our final thought for today. It's a question that really gets to the heart of how a constitution has to work in the real world. If equality is so fundamental, why build in any exceptions at all? The answer shows us the incredible balancing act our Constitution performs. The balance between the rights of an individual and the practical needs of running a country. It's a tension that's definitely worth thinking about.